Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on social media. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by, let's get it up on screen, the one Sleeping Warrior, Righteous Force, Paul Hall, Flatsoid, Chocolate Sane, Arwin, and 10th Man in G+. Very good to have you one and all.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
And we're also joined by a whole bunch of people in Discord. Hopefully you're all off mute, if one of my moderators is on the case. If not, I'll fiddle around with it while I'm doing housekeeping. Hello, Discord.
Good morning.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hello. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from a riverside.
Not on a flat plane.
No, that's pistol flat.
You got some great one-liners, the one. Say that again.
Not on a flat plane.
Any signs of curvature? Not on a flat plane. Yeah, effects of perspective only. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No.
No, only when I stand on my head.
Nope. Not on the flat plane.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity, scientific evidence thereof.
Not familiar with that thing.
So which one? The supposed official narrative of the bending of space-time, which they literally don't know what it is or how, or the nostalgic yet scientifically unconfirmed even by the original designer Newtonian gravity elaborated upon with dark matter and all kinds of extremities calculus-wise? Which one?
It's a very interesting question. I think that question was put to Danny Faulkner by one Sleeping Warrior currently on the panel. So what did Dr. Danny Faulkner have to say? PhD astronomer, I believe.
Yeah, I've got a back and forth on Facebook at the minute on a group, and I'm getting the two admins of the group saying Danny didn't answer Nathan's question because it came after an insulting and rather embarrassing for him rant at Danny. He did not deserve an answer, and quite honestly, with the tone that you've set on your first post, I don't think that you do either. That's an admin. And then the next admin says, you'd do well to review some recent conversations about Nathan Thompson's rude behaviour towards Danny Faulkner. We've also repeatedly covered the gas pressure thing. Briefly, how can you have a gas pressure at sea level double the container, blah, blah, blah. And then he talks about the gradient a bit more. And I've said, let's just concentrate on answering the question. No personal attacks, just the science. The questions on the table are simple. How can Danny fail to mention Einstein in his book when talking about gravity? And given that Einstein is the current science and gravity is an effect of the bending of a conceptual medium, how can the Earth have gas pressure without a container? The admin can kick me if you want. It doesn't change the science. So I'm just waiting for a response.
I like how they say you don't deserve a response because you're rude. Oh, right. The rudeness level isn't really relevant when we're talking about a lie in the nature of reality that contravenes the second law of thermodynamics, and an incorrect 100-year out-of-date assertion in a book that claims to debunk gravity by saying that it's old and out of date and a force when it isn't. So Danny's wrong on multiple levels, saying that Nathan Thompson was too rude to get an answer. Apparently he never came across a question he couldn't refute, and now it's being put verbalised and in text on this forum, and apparently we're not worthy of an answer and we're too rude. Why not just rattle off the answer in a paragraph and just put us all to shame? Oh, that's because there isn't an answer, it's a violation of natural law. So telling us we're too rude is the best you can do.
Never ran across the question you couldn't answer. Asterisk.
Ooh, guys, I have a little puzzle for you. There's a guy in chat who makes a remark, and I wonder, it's a troll account, but I wonder if you can determine who could have said this. Okay, so Nathan Thompson is a pussy bitch, says in chat at Nathan Oakley, second law only applies to my closed system. Who could have said that?
Don't care.
Only applies to what?
It's a closed system. So apparently,
Of a
because they've got an
closed
open system, it doesn't apply. Yeah, it applies equally to open or closed systems. It's a law of nature. If you believe that an open system, like a coffee cup, won't have the heat flow to the cold, that entropy won't increase because it's an open coffee cup, then you're moronic. Entropy applies. It's a natural law. Not only does it apply, it applies always.
Yeah, but Nathan, I don't think he realizes
my question, Nathan.
the system anyway.
Sorry, Paul. Say that again, Paul. I didn't answer your question.
I said, I was just going to, ask the question. Where did we discover this law to begin with? Just like to answer that question,
in nature.
please.
It's just a description of what happens always. In nature. To answer your question. What did you say, Flat Sword? Sorry.
I said maybe they don't know it, but the globe rhetoric is that Earth is a closed system anyway, even on their side.
They'd need it to be to have gas pressure. It isn't in the heliocentric rhetoric. That's the problem. That's why space is fake. And we can declare it quite openly and boldly in the face of people like PhD astronomer Dr. Danny Faulkner, because he stands in violation of a natural law when he claims Earth is in a vacuum with gas pressure not dispersing, in violation of natural law. So is there any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
I don't even know how.
Only when you put it in a container.
Yeah. How are you going to escape the container in the first place? Don't think that's possible.
No, you can't have gas pressure without a container. What about distance to the sun? Has anybody got any evidence of that?
Absolutely no.
What about
I'm
the R
not too
value?
sure it is anywhere except for at an angular location in relation to the observer.
Well, the heliocentric fundies utilise the R value to presuppose distances and speeds of things like the ISS and the Sun and all of the planets. So you'd need an R value to calculate that. Is there any proof of the R value, the presupposition? Earth radius?
Well, any thought about it? I think it's presupposed.
Yeah, we know.
I got a question on that, Nathan. At one time, did they say the sun was 3 million miles away? And did they not at that time use the presupposed R value? When now, with that same presupposed R value, it's 93 million miles away? What's
It
going
works
on
the other way
there?
around. You get the presupposition of sphericity from Aristarchus, and then you have somebody taking that presupposition and utilising the celestial bodies with sticks and shadows or wells, depending on which version of the story you get, to calculate a radius with the presupposition that you're on a sphere to begin with. So it's the other way around.
The
No,
lack
you would-
of science in all that is just amazing.
Yeah, one man watches a shadow that he thinks is a shadow. That's what he calls it. He hasn't got any confirmation that it's a shadow, but he's going to assume it's a shadow caused by Earth between him and the sun, so that causes a shadow on the moon. Well, that's his claim of the cause of lunar eclipses, Aristarchus in this instance. Well, that claim was based on his assumption that Earth is between the moon and the sun as a sphere in an orbit. So he's got a whole string of presuppositions for his explanation for what he calls a shadow moving across the moon. Well, that presupposition then goes forward to get validity by way of celestial transits to give you an R value. The average movement of the sun being the thing that they presuppose is on the outside edge of a sphere to give you your equator. All of these presuppositions are all in place from moment one when they've just presupposed that Earth is a sphere causing that shadow. That's the very first. That's like what do they call it when there's the point where you get the bomb? Anybody?
What? Nuclear fission?
When they drop a bomb, they say that's like the zone, the
drop zone.
Say again.
Oh.
The point of origin. I forgot what it's called. There's a term for it.
Ground zero?
Ground zero. That's the one.
Right.
That's ground zero. Aristarchus.
I don't know if you guys watched any of the conference, but Rob Skiba talked about this. This is on his presentation where they used a theodolite on their phone and calculated from two different locations on the Earth, and they both came up with the same number, that the moon is roughly 300 miles up, which I thought was interesting. And they get on, the Gobers get on to us showing that we don't understand trigonometry. Well, here's Trig showing that the moon is not as far up as we think it is.
Oh,
or
really?
They think it is.
And how wide is the moon? Did they have that data before they did the trig?
I don't know. He didn't get into a whole lot of detail. He just used the theodolite, not the theodolite, but the app on your phone to calculate it with angles. So he didn't really say.
That's a big problem. I'm sorry, Bob. Do you say Rob or Bob?
Rob.
I'm sorry, Rob. So, Rob, unfortunately, if you've got a little LED light that's 5 centimeters in diameter and it's 500 meters away, and then you've got a really powerful halogen headlight from a car or motorbike, so it's just one, that's a couple of miles away, to your perception they'll be the same size. So how are you going to work out which one's which?
I think it wasn't necessarily which one's which, but it's more of this determining that using trigonometry, if you're using trigonometry as using math, that using that you come up with a distance of 300 miles high. That's all. That's the only point I'm making. Not what the moon is, or anything like that. That's all. That's the only point I'm making.
But wouldn't you need that? Wouldn't you need that? Wouldn't you need to know how big the thing you're looking at is first? This is the criticism we lay at. I can't let it just fly when we would use the exact same criticism of, admittedly with the presupposition of an R value inserted in there with the same exact thing. But how are you supposed to know if you don't know what it is or how big it is?
Well, I think Jaron made this point a long time ago when he did his scaling and variance video. That with math, you can just make an object in the distance with angular size. You can make it be whatever.
Well,
Exactly.
I get the point of angular size, but there is, you can determine the height of a pole by knowing the angle and the distance to the pole, and that's something you can do using trig. You don't have to know. You may not know the size of the light at the top of the pole, but you can at least determine how high the light is above the pole. That's the only thing I would say. Using angles and distances, you can figure that out. The distance between the two and angles.
Yeah, I don't dispute that. I'd still want to know what it was first, in terms of how you're triangulating something like the moon. If I've got a torch in my hand that I can project a light onto a surface, and you can triangulate that light, well, what does that prove? That the light is actually at that distance? Well, no, it's projecting from something on the ground, potentially. Now, not for 1 second suggesting that the moon is a projection from the ground, but I'm saying that's a potential that you don't know the answer to. There's a million things it could be or could not be that you don't know and can't discount when you make a measurement like that on the moon. So I'd want to know what it was. And, I appreciate that what Rob Skiba's doing is he's debunking their assertion when using an R value that it's the 200 plus 1,000 kilometers or miles or whatever they say it is away. Well, yes, that does serve to debunk that, because you can just point out that they're inserting the presupposition of R. It's the death of Red's rhetoric. Everything he does uses the presupposition of the R value. That's why I'll never come here. So yeah, it serves its purpose. Maybe I'm being overly critical.
Yeah, can I ask a question relating to this? Paul, aren't the globetards using triangulation, and they come up with a number of 240 or so thousand miles away, and then you're saying that Rob Skiba used triangulation, same method, and came up with 300 miles? Am I hearing that right?
It's just
Basically,
R.
yes.
It's only
Right,
R
that's
that's
what I'm
different.
saying.
It's just R. They insert the R value. The presupposition that Earth is spherical gives you a very, very distant light.
Right, but I'm just trying to see if this thing that Rob Skiba said he did with triangulation is the same thing they say they did. And if it's the same thing, how do you come up with two different numbers if math is not prejudice or bias?
R, I've just said. You insert the presupposition of the R value into the exact same mathematics, and that adjustment gives you a very distant light, based on the presupposition that you're on a spherical surface.
So then Rob Skiba didn't presuppose the same R value?
Yeah, that's why it serves its purpose. That's why I've said I'm being overly critical, because it's going to serve that purpose beautifully. You don't have to insert a fundy globehead presupposition that you're on a sphere at the start of every example. That's begging the question. If you're trying to prove that the sun is a certain distance away, and you're orbiting the sun in an elliptical motion on a heliocentric model, then you don't start with the presupposition that you're orbiting the sun in a model and that you're on a sphere, and then go forward to make your measurement. In other words, insert R here. R value being Earth radius, the presupposition thereof.
Well, and even in this assumption in Rob's thing, he is presupposition, or I can't even say the word now. Presume that the Earth is flat, and you put your equation in. So it's an assumption either way. So you got to, either direction, you got to prove that it's flat or prove that it's round.
No, that's incorrect. No, that's wrong. Yeah. That's wrong. No.
Why is that?
The measurements are identical for both. The only difference between these two measurements is the insertion of an R value. There isn't an equivalent that we would have to substitute the R value for to say that it's a presupposition on our part. It's not. The only presupposition is removed when you remove the R value. Other than that, the maths are the same. So what you're saying, if you're saying we're also presupposing it, it's like, well, no, that's the baseline for their maths before they presuppose R. So what you're saying, they've got two presuppositions, we've only got one? Well, no, we just don't have any presupposition. We don't insert an R value.
Silly stork. R is for pseudoscientists.
Hey, Quantum Eraser, good to have you.
Morning.
So,
where's Danny Faulkner when you need him?
Where's Danny Faulkner? We don't need him. Well, he's a useful person for highlighting the utilisation of 100+ year out-of-date rhetoric when you need to explain away why we have gas pressure without a container, even though entropy's not being defied by either of those two not actual forces called gravity. The most recent being an effect of the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time. Well, that's not going to hold gas pressure. And the minute, whatever Anthony describes it as a 50 millionth to 1 force of Newtonian, incorrectly labelled, actually Reverend John Michel Cavendish gravity, well, those aren't going to hold gas pressure. That's nonsense. He needs a force to weasel his way around it, so he's picked a 100-year-old one.
Can I just correct you there, Nathan? It's not Anthony's 50 million to 1. It's actually Jean-Michel Cavendish himself.
My bad. The exampled by Sleeping Warrior of Reverend John Michel's mathematical bullshittery when it comes to this out-of-date pseudoscience used by Dr. Danny Faulkner.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior, would you be willing to put that into the live stream? That piece of evidence?
Sure. The Jean-Michel Cavendish citation for the 50 million to 1.
Yes, please. That is exquisite.
Have you seen it before, or are you asking because you need to know where it is?
No, I've heard of it before plenty of times. I've never laid eyes on it personally. I'd be much appreciated.
You can post it. Somebody remind me of Random Atheist's comment, which is, if Earth is flat, where is the edge? I want to come to that after we round out housekeeping. So while we're on the subject of an astronomer PhD, one of each. Shout out to Quantum Eraser. Is there any evidence in the entire history of the fields of astronomy, astrophysics, or cosmology of any viable hypothesis?
Nope.
No.
Michio Kaku said they don't work with the scientific method.
Chocolate's obviously got a lot of background noise. I was expecting him to parrot off the quote.
Well, in Discord, we didn't hear the
I thought y'all
that.
probably heard it too many times.
Au
But-
contraire. Go ahead, Chocolate.
Nah, well, nobody in our field knows, understands scientific method. We work by the seat of our pants with leaps of logic and guesswork. Michio Kaku, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. So we've been asking this question for the best part of a month now, and given that these are the priests of heliocentrism who declare quite frequently that science is right whether you like it or not, let's have some. We want a viable hypothesis from any of the fields of cosmology, astrophysics, or astronomy. That would include Dr. Danny Faulkner, PhD. Hey, Adam.
Afternoon, Nathan. You're right. Afternoon, everyone.
You got a lot of praise in the pre-show for your exceptionally good work.
for the epic.
Yeah, Adam.
The Goku remix.
Awesome. Ballbusters is getting a new intro thanks to the very hard work of Adam Meakin. So shout out to him. Check out Iron Realm Media.
Shout out to number 4.
Can I just add something on the
Number 4? No way.
Yeah, number 2.
Hold on. Look, this fun though this is.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Adam.
It's just on the Rob Schema bit with regards to the trigonometry. Now, you're not I don't think you're viewing from one point. You're viewing from multiple points, I assume, to get the trigonometry of distance. Now, the first thing is, even on a flat plane, you're assuming that the angle you measure is correct, is actually relative. It's not disturbed or in any way altered by the atmosphere. So there's all those standard faults. But the bit I wanted to say, just in terms of the inserting of an R into this, it is a massive corruption, because as far as I can see, when we're on a flat plane and we take those readings, we are making those assumptions that the angles are correct to calculate the distance. But we do take those angles. On the equivalent ball version, you obviously measure the angles the same, but because you're supposedly on a curving surface, what you have to do the calculation is, well, the simplest way is to adjust the angles. And that's what puts it at distance. So even in their model, you don't actually use those angles. The easiest way is to change the angles as if to represent what that angle would be based on a ball. So they pervert one of the angles to give the distance based on the R. It's how it's done.
There's a very good video on this by Smokescreen Design, and the title of the video is called "Was Jeranism Wrong? Distance to the Sun or Distance to the Moon?" I forget which. It's not relevant. But he takes apart a very concise video by Red Rhetoric where he details exactly that. The changing of the angles based on the assumption of an R value. So he fudges them, and he points out where that happens. So check it out, Smokescreen Design. This is probably a 5-year-old video. It's a very, very old video. It's one of the first things I came across when watching. I don't think it was even called Globebusters back in those days. It was on Jeranism's channel, and he had the ISS watch, and it might have been called Globebusters, but certainly him, his wife, Smokescreen Design, and a few other people were the team back then. And round about that time, as I say, Smokescreen brought out a sort of debunking video to a debunking of Jeran done by Red Rhetoric in regards to this insertion of the R value when measuring the distance to a celestial body and fudging the angles, as just detailed by the Adam Meakin. In our you trust, radius dominus, gravitus spiritus sanctus, go in peace, fundamentalist religious zealots.
Arwin.
Arwin. Shout out
All right,
to
Nathan.
the Mega Twerky for perspective will also alter the angles. Theo Mega Worty. Thank you very much indeed for your super chat. Really appreciate your support. Just got one last question. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so the Random Atheist, or whatever he was called, had a comment, but before I get to it, is there anyone wants to get in there? And then I'm going to talk about the edge question we were asked.
Yeah, just before we do, I have got a response back from Danny Faulkner about why he didn't mention Einstein in his book. Get this, he says, I already answered the question of why I didn't mention Einstein in the book in the discussion of page 169 to 179. And then his answer in that occasion was because it wasn't relevant. So I then consequently asked him, how did you dismiss it? On what science have you dismissed Einstein? And then he said, however, if you were to consult the index of my book, you'll find that I did discuss Einstein's work where it was relevant on pages 2017 to 2019. I cannot believe this silly pseudo-objection to what I wrote is making its rounds amongst flat earthers. Apparently you folks have no idea what you're talking about, or else a desperate attempt to avoid the cold, hard logic that I present there and conclude on pages 1 whatever. You then want to blend that with having gas pressure without a container. The two have nothing to do with each other. Flat earthers seem to have this thing about a vacuum, I suppose being defined as a region that is totally empty and has absolutely zero pressure, magically sucking everything up around it. There are at least two problems with this. First, a vacuum so defined doesn't exist anywhere. Better way to define a vacuum as a region of lower pressure. Second, vacuums don't suck. It's the existence of a higher pressure elsewhere that drives fluid from higher pressure to lower pressure. This is caused by a force that is equal to the difference in the pressure times the cross-sectional area between the two regions. So I said, Danny Faulkner, we are live right now. Click the link above and join. Let's hear you justify your words in front of an audience. I respectfully challenge you. You will not be bullied. And he's literally just responded. Let me just read his response. His response is, bear with me, I'm just scrolling down to the bottom. So hard on Facebook. He says, I am not interested. I decide when, where, and how I discuss flat earth. I'm not going on to an internet show that I know nothing about, a place where I have absolutely no control over the direction of the discussion, the rules of discussion, and contents afterwards. What one word should I send back to him? Coward?
Yeah.
Yeah, coward.
Also, he makes a point that we would agree with. He's saying that the Newtonian or Einsteinian gravitational bullshit has nothing to do with entropy. Well, he's right.
Well, and
Yeah,
I would tell him too. I would tell him too, Anthony, that look, I says you got a flat earther's critique in your book. You know, if you're not up to criticism of a flat earther on your book, then yeah, you definitely are a coward.
Well,
because you know.
I'd ask him, Tony. So just to clarify, then, mate. So you're saying it's not that you can't refute; it's that you won't refute.
Yeah, I'm on
See,
it. I'm on it.
but why be nervous? I thought science would have your back, right? Science should have your back if everything you're saying is validated by science. Why are you scared to go anywhere or answer any question by anybody?
I wouldn't.
Mr. PhD.
I would rephrase the question. Not rephrase, repeat the question. So as a reply, point out that as a closing remark, please can you give me a concise answer to this question? How can you have gas pressure without a container? He's clearly said he's not coming, so this is your last opportunity to round out and try and get a concise answer. He's given you quite a lot of word salad in a conversational exchange. That's the main question. Re-ask it. Just as a closing question. Just so you can summarise your answer, please, Doctor. How can you have gas pressure without a container? Don't mention that it's a violation of natural law. Just ask him the question. That would be my advice. Shout out to Dave Rakier Gafford. I'm going to read this off my faraway screen if I butcher it. If you speak the truth, hold on one sec. If you speak the truth, you can go anywhere and speak to anyone at any time. Rakier life. Thank you very much for the super chat, Dave Rakier Gafford.
See,
Anthony,
that's exactly
Well,
what I
Nathan.
just said, Rocky. Exactly.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, he's just gonna say gravity, right? And
No,
people believe this
no,
stuff.
no,
That's
no,
a
no,
problem.
no. I will get to you, Paul. No, he won't. He's already said it's got nothing to. He's correct. He's saying no, Newtonian or Einsteinian. It's got nothing to do with the subject. Well, that's been something that QE's been saying for ages. No, it doesn't. He's right. You know, you're not overcoming entropy with gravity. Go ahead, Paul.
I was going to say, Anthony, once you share your screen, if you're getting this live feed, to share it so we can not just your words, but we can actually see it if it's possible.
Yeah, I can do that. Share screen.
I would say, Anthony, don't say coward at all, because you have a back and forth open discussion. This can go on for a while. Ask the questions succinctly, like Nathan said.
The problem is on Facebook is everyone's jumping on the thread, and because they're jumping on it, it's moving that fast. I can't now keep up with it.
Okay, never mind then.
Somebody need to doctor.
I posted that smokescreen design video in this Hangout, in Master B's, and in Discord live stream.
And to say this, the only point I was making with that video, with what Rob did, was just to say that even if you use trigonometry, it doesn't match what the globers were saying. That was not the ultimate point.
I've just seen that, John. That's exactly what I was talking about, how they subvert the angles once they apply it onto a curved surface.
Precisely.
Okay, so if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980, I've just literally posted, it's just rolling by now, the link to Smokescreen Designs video. So if you want to go and check it out, thank you very much for digging that out, Quantum Eraser. That was quick. Explain to me where the word suck comes from. I'll give you a hint. It's describing the action of differential pressure. Yes, vacuums suck. Theo Megaworty. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Colloquially, there's nothing wrong with saying that a vacuum is going to suck the gas from surrounding the vacuum upon having an opening. Yeah, that would be a reasonable way to describe it. However, what's actually happening is the gas is pressing on the walls of the vacuum, if you've got a vacuum chamber example, and when you open a little valve, the gas pressure is pushing its way into the vacuum. That's just his straw man. I am in absolutely no doubt, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, that at no stage whatsoever did Anthony use the word suck. It's just a straw man he's building up to make it seem like Anthony's declaring something incorrectly about how a vacuum operates when it's the gas pressure filling the volume. We state it as such. The gas would fill the space, not the vacuum would suck the gas. None of us say that. It's just a straw man.
But he recognises that point, Nathan, because he clearly defines where the driving force is. It's from the entropy from the high to low, which he then admits Earth has, and then still says, yeah, but there's a vacuum next to it. So he's in that he has to have some form of containment, and the only thing he in his model falls back onto is the thing that he says is irrelevant, which is gravity.
Exactly. A little bit of word salad, a little bit of a dance. Declare the truth. Entropy is not being overcome by either of these two fictional forces. So we're back to the original question. That's why I said rephrase it. How can you have gas pressure without a container then?
But to make it even more irrelevant, he reverts back to the version of gravity that's even more irrelevant than the other version. So what the hell? It's like it's a joke, man.
If I heard the first answer that Sleeping Warrior gave, he was saying that space is not a complete vacuum. So is it gravity, or is it that space is not a complete vacuum? Which one is it? You can't say both.
It's like they have this problem with calling it a vacuum, right? But NASA, who sends things up there supposedly second law of thermodynamics violation, cause of the vacuum themselves. So, Mr. PhD, I don't know. Have you been up there? Can you validate that it's not a vacuum?
Well,
as opposed to being a vacuum like NASA calls it, because they would know better than you, right? They send stuff up there. So this word nonsense, what's up, brother? This word nonsense where he's just trying to control how people speak is like, it's just bullshit. Go ahead, Tim.
No, it's just going to piggyback on you with some numbers. Now, the official number is 10 to the minus 17 torr, right?
That's interstellar space.
All right. So what is it between the Earth's atmosphere and outer space?
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Danny Faulkner says, Anthony Riley, gravity is a force. This is another silly pseudo objection.
Wow.
Now.
Oh,
If you
can you repeat
consult
that?
almost
Hold
any
on.
physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces, with gravity being one of them. And I've just said gravity is not a force. Einstein said so. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson knows it's not a force. Where is your science, Danny?
Hey, pull up Wikipedia. Hold on a second. Pull up Wikipedia right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
And go to the standard model.
What, the phrase standard model?
Yes.
Hang on, I want to get this screenshot of you. Hang on. I'm trying to get one of them to come here and just get mauled.
He literally typed out it's a force. Too good, man.
So everyone hold on. I just want to cue in Sleeping Warrior to make their points, get their stuff on screen. So if you can just let them do
the
it.
standard model of physics. 1 second. Let me just put the standard model in. Let me see if it pulls it up.
While you're doing that, I will read out the last super chat from Theo again. Thank you very much for the super chat. It says, the vacuums don't suck argument is for the feeble-minded in order to distract them from the argument proper. Vacuums suck. They are the only thing that do. Thank you very much for the super chat, Theo. Really appreciate your support.
The standard to put in the standard
some
model of
dollars
physics into their alma mater wiki. The standard model of particle physics is a theory describing 3 of the 4 known fundamental forces: the electromagnetic, weak and strong interactions, and not including the gravitational force. He's a clown.
So
He's also a psychopath.
Psychopath?
That's convenient. That's conveniently in there.
So has the pride got the better of him because he's responding and digging his own grave? He should have shut up.
Exactly.
Trying to get him to join. Come on, Danny. Oops.
Is there 9 or 10 people on this panel?
Somebody taking a pen and writing down his name on the toe tag.
Shout out to Nick, Nicholas and Larry. Go on mute. Shout out retracted. Rakia life. Shout out for the super chat, Dave Rakia Gafford.
The problem is on Facebook, everyone
on a
jumps
side
on it
note.
when there's something contentious. They just love it and they jump on it, and you just can't keep up with it.
That's no bad thing. So he's seeing that lots of people are reading this and paying attention to it, even if it's only a perception of lots of people, because a few people are making lots of comments. It's got the better of him. And QE's right every time. Just let them flap. Just let them open their mouth, or in this case type, and they'll expose themselves. And there he is.
Anthony.
We said it yesterday, we called it. He needs a force. That's why he's using the old rhetoric, and there he's declared it. Thank you to whoever's squealing their mic on Discord while I'm saying that. I'll just repeat that. We called it yesterday. He needs a force. Where's he getting one from? 100-year out-of-date rhetoric. That's where he's getting one from. He's made it plain. Force. No, doctor. Wrong. You are mistaken. Is it on screen, Anthony, if I share you again?
Yeah, I should be screen sharing, right?
Yeah? And just whoever's...
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks for that. Yeah, try and keep yourself on mute. And just find the bit where he digs his own grave and just highlight it, Anthony.
Yeah, it should be here. Danny Faulkner. No, it must be below this. Come on, Danny Faulkner. Trouble is, there's multiple there we go. Danny Faulkner. Gravity is a force. This is another silly pseudo objection that flat earthers are endlessly repeating now. If you consult almost any physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces. Usually it says 3, doesn't it? With gravity being one of them. Right, John, what were you saying? Standard model?
Yeah,
Yes.
Standard model of physics, first sentence.
What's cool about this,
Hold on,
Anthony?
10th.
Yeah, I'm going to have this.
Echo.
Thank you. Can you just read out what you had highlighted a second ago, Anthony?
The standard model. You mean the gravity is a force?
I just need you to conclude the bloody point rather than taking your screenshots, if you don't mind.
I've already concluded it. You missed it, maybe.
Oh, right. We're summarising it. Oh, my God. So you're not going to read out the damaging, defying point that completely shits in his point?
I am.
You're not going to read
yes, I'll
that
do it
because you've
again.
already read it.
Gravity is a force. This is another silly pseudo objection that flat earthers are endlessly repeating. If you consult almost any physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces, with gravity being one of them. That's, I'm going to respond to this, obviously.
Yeah, I need you to read out the rebuttal, Anthony. The bit that you've just searched for that defies that.
Oh, well, it's just this.
Just read it, for God's sake. I'm starting to lose my shit with you, Anthony. This is the least concise debunking of him you could possibly have. You've read his claim twice and refused to read the debunking. I can't believe what's happening. I just need you to concisely read out his bullshit claim and then read out what it says in Wiki that defies it. That's it.
Or the standard model.
Do you want me to read it again, or do you want me to just read the second bit?
Now I'm nice
Gravity
and
is
calm.
most accurately described by general relativity, which describes gravity not as a force, but as a consequence of the curvature of space-time.
Okay. Now read the standard model, debunking his claim of the 4 fundamental forces.
I'm going to do it right now. I want to post it so he sees it, though. Bear with me.
You're
Times of the
useless. You're
essence here,
absolutely
Wallis.
useless. So what we need, Anthony, is a soundbite of you reading his bullshit claim and then debunking it in the next sentence, rather than this crap where you're cutting it on a live show. I mean, God, do you not want the audience to hear a consistent debunking of the thing you've been arguing about him for 3 days about? I just can't believe what's happening.
Okay, let me do it again. Get ready for your soundbite, everybody else. Shut up and I'll do it again, okay? Right, so I'm going to find his comment now. Danny Faulkner, gravity is a force. This is another silly pseudo-objection that flat earthers are endlessly repeating now. If you consult almost any physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces, with gravity being one of them. The rebuttal obviously is from, you can just cite Wikipedia on this. Go to Wikipedia, type in gravity. Gravity is most accurately described by the general theory of relativity proposed by Einstein in 1915, which describes gravity not as a force, but as a consequence of the curvature of space-time caused by the uneven distribution of mass.
Is that it?
Woohoo!
Yeah, that's what he wanted.
Oh my God!
Yes.
He didn't. What's the issue now? What's up, QE? What's wrong?
Failed to state the standard model and the 4 fundamental forces. I got a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, chicken shit outfit.
Secure that shit, Hudson.
I'm on
Right. QE.
Guys, take it easy on Anthony. He's excited because he's getting a response from this clown. So that's what it is.
At least I'm getting to him, though. I've been looking for him for days. Now
Can
I know
you do
where
it,
he
QE?
floats.
Can you
See,
do it?
I told you.
Just, can you do it?
I wish I could, but his screen's popping up, going down, popping up, going down. I can't see what Danny wrote. I would do it if he puts it up on the screen and leaves it there. And then I'll just fucking do it.
Tony's too excited. He can't stop scrolling.
Anthony, can you make it a bit larger, please?
That's what she said.
4 more hours.
I know that's what she said. Thanks.
Okay. So,
if you consult almost any physics textbook, it will state that there are 4 fundamental forces, with gravity being one of them. From their alma mater wiki, the standard model of particle physics is a theory describing 3 of the 4 known fundamental forces: the electromagnetic, the weak, strong interactions, and not NOT, including the gravitational force in the universe. Thanks.
Yep.
awesome.
Outstanding.
Rest in peace, Danny Faulkner.
Yep. Danny Faulkner, falling flat. Dead.
It's just wrong. He's incorrect.
And that's bad too. Like he just made that mistake like 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago.
I gotta go, guys. I need to go. I'll catch you guys in a bit.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Laters, guys.
Shout out to Dave Racky Gafford, says, God is truth, Bible has inspired word. God is creator, Jesus Christ is Lord and Saviour. Thank you very much for the super chat, Dave Racky Gafford.
If I have to quote Nathan Thompson, Danny Faulkner, PhD astronomer, profiting from the lies.
Yeah, that was kind of, I know he's gone now, but Anthony and Babs reasserted the same point in that regard. He's not interested in being challenged, he just wants to be able to spew his rhetoric, smear the flat earthers, and have a happy day, sell a few books. Well, pride's got the better of him in this instance because he's just declared incorrectly so that gravity is a force. Well, he needs it to be, we called it yesterday. That's precisely why he's doing what he's doing in regards to Reverend John Michel / Cavendish gravity, falsely known as Newtonian gravity, in substitution of the current bullshittery, which is Einsteinian pseudo-Ramonian force space being bent to give rise to a not actual force called gravity. So he's parroting the wrong pseudoscience.
But come on now, Nathan.
Maybe he should have an interview with George Musser and maybe they could square it off.
Exactly. I just wanted to mention that. Like, yeah, okay, gravity may not actually be a force, but at least he's been given the green light. He's allowed to think that it is a force. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Can somebody ask George Musser what he thinks of Danny's comment?
Maybe fight the flat earth for.
It never ends.
So which is it, guys? Is it force, not a force? Like, what's going on with your story, your narrative here? Mr. PhD says it is a force. George says it's not a force. I mean, what's going on?
The problem is he's used
well,
to
they don't know
arguing.
what it is, but until that time they can think of it as a force.
No, they know what it is. They know what they're going to parrot. It just depends on the circumstances. And back in 2016, he would have got away with his flip-flopping between these two different gravities. You know, it's one of the early QE lessons I got. When they speak about gravity, which one? And then here's how you pummel both of them. Well, back in the day, I didn't know that. When they start talking about gravity and parroting off Newtonian forces, if you don't know any different, you're just going to get bamboozled. Now, most people would allow him to get away with that and wouldn't have a response. They wouldn't know how to debunk Cavendish gravity. They wouldn't be able to explain that the experiment has no validity. They wouldn't be able to challenge him on the fact that it's 100-year out-of-date rhetoric that doesn't match up with the not actual force of gravity currently declared in Einsteinian pseudo-Ramonian force space. Now we do. And what do you know? He's getting pummeled. Gravity's not a force, Doctor. What kind of buffoon are you? Who accredited you? You don't know what gravity is, my friend. You claim you can debunk flat earthers. No, we're having to point out where you don't understand your own bloody narrative.
I mean, it says that in Wiki. He could have done an easy Wiki search and they would have told him gravity's not a force. So I don't know. Maybe a little more research, Doctor?
A shout out to Awaken Narrative.
Why aren't there any
Sorry, just one sec. Shout out to
Sorry.
Awaken Narrative. It says, support the show. It's scientifically destroying the whirling, twirling, spinning ball lie daily. Thank you very much. He also says, thank you for the super chat. Again, Awaken Narrative. Nathan, you missed my super chat. Technically not true now. Ha ha ha. No, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate your support.
Shout out to Awaken Narrative.
We shouldn't be the ones to point out to a PhD astronomer where he doesn't understand the nonsense he's parroting and where it's out of date and why he's wrong and how it's not a force, as declared to the masses by the actual parroting pseudoscience priests like deGrasse Tyson. Now, he's not going on TV with the wrong rhetoric. You're just mistaken, Doctor. You need to learn how your rhetoric works before challenging clearly more educated, understanding people in this subject matter. That would be us, the flat earthers, who are crapping all over your incorrect assertions right now.
Right. Hey, and if he needs more hints from his priests, then watch the Joe Rogan interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He'll explain to you exactly
Yeah, that's what I was
read.
gonna. I was just gonna say that. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, in his interview just maybe a month ago, Neil deGrasse Tyson was very adamant that gravity is the bending of space time. I mean, he said that numerous times, right? Never said anything about a force.
Not
So again, right. So where is the consistency in this narrative? Which is it, guys? Oh, it's neither. Because you don't have any scientific validity for any of them. So there you go.
because it's a freaking concept. It doesn't exist.
Because it's not real!
I thought that was the the recording.
No, that was actually me saying that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just
real.
Just to round out
Exactly
this.
like recording.
Sorry, just to round out this this particular show. So there was a comment earlier on in the show where someone was asking us, the flat earthers, where is the curve? So I don't know if whoever's chatting in G+, if you can just pop yourself on mute, you're causing feedback. So asking us flat earthers, where is our curve? So before I demolish this question, I want to ask the people on the panel, or in Discord for that matter, if you want to speak as a flatty, or misrepresent us as a globehead, I don't care either way. Where our edge is, what's our edge, what is he asking about, what would you answer that with, etc, etc. Whoever wants to go.
What edge?
What edge? I heard twice. Cool. What edge? Yeah, I don't declare an edge yet. Any other answers?
Are you saying there is an edge?
No, that's the last two answers. So no, we say what edge. We are not declaring any edge. So is there anything beyond that? Or is that's the right answer? I've not made a claim about any edge. What you want about would be the direct answer to his question, but it comes with a supplementary, of course. But is there anything else before I give that supplementary?
Who told you there is an edge?
Yeah, who you using a stereotyping fallacy to give us that nonsense? Oh, would it be the Flat Earth Society by any chance?
Exactly.
An edge of what?
I want to make my point though, hold on. So we are charged with having an edge by the controlled opposition narrative that's known as the Flat Earth Society. This was discussed yesterday in terms of their assertions that you have a space pizza, i.e. flat Earth disk flying through space. That was what we covered yesterday. In this instance, with an edge. So we are charged by the chat, by people like Random Atheist, for our edge, which we don't make any claims about. Which is fascinating because it actually is a projection of their weakest assertion in regards to globe Earth evidence. Now on screen now we have the horizon, accurately described as an arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground, a not actual location. Now that position is reified into the edge of a fundamentalist globetard religious zealot's sphere belief. Now it's not the edge of a sphere, it's an arbitrary location where the sky appears to meet the ground, a position you can't travel to. It will move as you move. It's not something you can measure to give you dip to calculate your sphere, and it's not something that's going to obscure something because it's a physical obstruction, i.e. edge of a globe believer's model reified into existence when using begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculations to turn that arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground into the edge of your globehead zealot sphere belief. We don't have an edge. On screen now is your reification of a heliocentric belief into the arbitrary position where the sky seems to meet the ground and labelled the edge of your sphere. So we don't have an edge, in conclusion. You, as globetard zealots, absolutely have an edge. It's reified into existence by way of begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective, hijacking curve calculations, and an arbitrary position called the horizon turned into the leading edge of a sphere belief. Thank you. Hope that answers your question, atheist globetard. Got about a minute if anyone wants to add anything to the live show. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley.
Yeah, I just want to say that Earth is obviously and observably flat, and space is fake.
Any more for any more?
You got a super chat.
Ooh. Shout out the last super chatter, and then we'll probably round out. Have a little look. Shout out to Retro Bill. I freaking love this show. Worth every penny. And he's given me $20. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Retro Bill. I really do appreciate your support. And with that, again, I will say if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you again to all of you who smashed the super chat and liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of today's Discord and G Plus panel for making this show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on the premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!